Margaret. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. Oh my gosh, it's such an honor to be here. I just want to, what is that beautiful picture behind you?
Oh, this is the Maitreya with his consort, um, and it's a Tibetan tanka. So I have the sculpture of it. You can't see that in the frame, but the
Yeah.
sculpt. Because you can. This I have the sculpture of it right next to it.
Oh,
But it's one
beautiful.
of my favorite tankas.
I love
So,
it.
and I smuggled it out of Kathmandu after the royal family was assassinated in June of 2001.
Wow.
So I'm an
Whoa.
art thief
Yeah, a
also.
piece of history. Well,
Yes.
well, Margaret, first of all, like you have just been your comedy and your portrayals on screen were so formative to my experience as a queer Asian. So just thank you for everything that you do. And as someone, like this film was so great. And as
Oh,
someone
thank
who
you.
has been so subversive and irreverent since the genesis of your career, when you saw the script for Fire Island and read Joel Kim Booster's vision on the page, what narratives and perspectives excited you about the film?
I was just excited even before reading the script, just learning about the fact that the film was called Fire Island, which is a place I've been going to since 2008
Mm,
and really love. And I love Joel and I love Bowen, and that Andrew was directing. That was enough for me to reach out. I reached out to them and I was like, I just want to be in the movie. I don't care what it is. I thought like a cameo or something. And then they they were talking about it, and I talked to Andrew and we were discussing like the part of Erin, which was originally written for a man.
mm,
And so we just figured out that was the right thing and changed it around a little bit, but not that much actually. And it became really I mean, what I love about it is that the whole film for me is really this idea that even if you're gay, it doesn't mean you can't be racist, classist, sexist, homophobia, a body shamer. Like, there's so many things about queerness that makes us feel above the law in terms of bias, but
mm.
we're not free of that. And that we should check that. And I think that's what the whole film was really meaningful, in that it's all wrapped up in this very beautifully acted, beautifully shot, beautifully directed summer romance film. So I think that's really important.
Yeah, because it explored the toxicity of the gay community while also showing how we confide in our chosen family during these
Hmm.
moments where we feel so alienated within people that we should feel some like collective feeling with.
Yes, yes. And that's a really unsafe thing when you're going to queer spaces to escape the sort of mainstream sexist heterosexual world,
Mhm.
homophobic heterosexual world, and you think you're going to be safe in queer spaces, but we're not.
Mm.
And that's a really horrifying thing, feeling really alienated from both spaces that are not ours and that are supposed to be ours. So it's something that I'm very familiar with, and
Mhm.
understanding like queerness and being in the queer community for as long as I have. Like, it's just like there is so much bias there that we need to deal with, but I think so much is not recognized on the surface level.
Hmm. Yeah, because you would think that when you go to Fire Island and you escape to these places, or even go to like a queer event, that this is a place for us, by us, this is a safe space. But even within that, there are so many nuances and complexities within that experience that, yeah, alienate so many others that are marginalized already within that community.
Yeah, and that's why, like, before any kind of event or like place or like pride thing that happens, like we're all going on crazy workout regimes and diets and credit card debt, trying to present a self
Yeah.
that is the most curated identity or version of ourselves, so that
Mm.
we can be proud. It's a very weird kind of thing to navigate, and I don't think anybody's really talked about that. So that's a really great thing about this movie.
Going back to the movie, this must have been such a riot to film. There are so many hilarious, talented, incredible people attached to this film. Joel, Bowen, Matt, Conrad. What was it like? Does this feel like, what was it like working with all of these creative, animated, hilarious people, some of which, you've inspired so much?
I loved it. I mean, they're so wonderful and so funny, and we laughed so much every day. There
Mhm.
was a lot to celebrate just being together and just enjoying this kind of like very rare moment of getting to work together, because usually if we're working, we're all separated
Mm,
because they only need one Asian. So there's like never a time when we're all together, but this was like the time.
mhm.
So I think we really sort of became that family. And when we were on the island, we were all sort of staying in this one villa kind of around a pool. And so it felt very sacred. I think it was a really beautiful experience. We just laughed. Bone and Matt every day did full recreations from either Real Housewives of wherever or like a Tiffany Pollard I Love New York full monologue, like recreation. It was like Real Housewives in the park. Like they would do like full, like line by line recreations of scenes from reality television from VH1 in the early 2000s.
Iconic.
And
Yeah.
it was so like, kind of iconic. Like we were just talking about like Charm School and like all these old like VH1 shows that had sort of come out of Flavor of Love. Like it was all this stuff that was so funny to me, and really just that like they would just be doing like full dance routines
Mhm.
and entire Nicki Minaj song and choreography, like everything about it, like it was just so exciting. So I think it was really like, I just really love how much they bring the fun, they bring the party, but through laughter and playing.
Yeah, and that wasn't even for the film. That wasn't even on camera. That was just
No,
behind the scenes, just in between takes.
in between takes, and all day, all night, it was so hilarious. So we really, really laughed.
Yeah, that's so great. That's so great.
Yeah.
There were so many visceral moments in this film, especially since it was, written by Joel Kim Booster and shot by Andrew An through this gay Asian male gaze. Never before have I seen that written before. So I don't
Oh,
think
wow.
I've seen a perspective similar to this through a rom-com, which was so lovely because when you watch a romantic comedy or you watch a film like Fire Island, or at least set in the same narrative, there's always some narratives that you feel like you need to like assimilate to or like kind of glean a little bit and just take what you can. But for this, I was like, whoa, this is exactly what I felt. Was there a moment in the film, without spoiling it for people that may have not seen it yet, that really struck you where you thought this is really special, that this is now on a rom-com?
I think it's really just that we're all like, this this is a very big film, and that it was shot so beautifully. It's like four Asian American queer lead actors, that's like so incredible, that it was very true to Joel's original vision. He was not only the star of the film, but he wrote it and as a producer. So he was sort of like doing everything,
Mm.
which is really incredible. And that the studio really supported his version of the story, and that Andrew was there to just lift it up, and you had this very like uh artistic envisioning of it. The sort of art auteur in Andrew really came out because he's such a beautiful visual thinker, and he really paints with film. And so that was, I think, really a great way to see the island, to see the story, and to match it up with like the Merchant Ivory films of the 80s, which are actually my favorite, or the sort of original sort of Jane Austen productions, which I think this rivals that. I think it's a really magnificent film.
Yeah. And you mentioned earlier that you have frequented Fire Island a few times. What was your most memorable experience on the island?
My most memorable experience is that I went with my two friends who were like, they're gay men, but they're sisters, like Joel and Bowen in the movie.
Mhm.
And they both hooked up with different guys, but they brought them back to our hotel. And so my room was upstairs and they were on the bottom floor, but their room was really small and they were sharing it. So they
Okay.
had to like blow their tricks in the same room, but they're trying not to look at each other because they're sisters. So they don't want to touch or make eye contact because it would be ruined.
Yeah.
Because then it would be just like gross and weird. You don't want you see your sister to see you sucking a dick. You don't want to see your sister sucking a dick. So
Mm, yeah, it ruins the fantasy. Yeah.
it was all this, and I was hearing all this from above, like, bitch, turn around, like upstairs, happening from upstairs. And it was really funny. So that was my favorite
Yeah.
memory. So it wasn't exactly my memory, but I was actually involved.
Yeah. No, that's so funny. I love that. And now also, I know I'm coming from BC right now. So I'm in Vancouver. I know you've done some filming here. You've probably been here a couple of times on tour. And I know you're also the weed connoisseur with a strain named after you. Do you think the weed is better in BC, Canada, or in Cali?
Oh, it's way better in BC. Well,
Oh,
there's longer, I think the cultivation, the techniques, the tissue culture, all of that is hydroponics, all of that is much more elevated in Vancouver because there's a longer legal history for it. So the
mhm,
botanists, everybody who's sort of like worked on these strains have a lot more experience in a very sort of above board legal fashion.
mm,
Whereas here, it's much more. It's much newer. So that technology and all of the stuff that goes into creating these gorgeous plants is not as tested. So I
mm.
think in BC, it's way better. I was just there actually filming Prom Pact. So I was there the last couple of weeks.
I've been listening to your self-titled podcast, The Margaret Cho, where this season you are examining hate crimes against Asian Americans with each episode. You know, comedy has often been used as a coping mechanism and a way to destigmatize conversations, but I guess you're now using your platform to spotlight these stories that really inform how racism has been employed against the Asian diaspora historically. What have you learned about, that itself, how racism has been employed against the Asian diaspora historically through uncovering these cases on your podcast?
Well, it's really disturbing because the cyclical nature of the hate crimes, it's like they keep on recurring and they've been happening since 1849. And, like in the late 1800s, at one point we had 200 separate Chinatowns in different cities all over the United States, and they were all eradicated by white racists. And
Hmm.
it's like a very devastating thing to think about. Like our history in this country has really been erased because of fear, because of racism, because of just like this kind of misunderstanding that we're somehow less American than the people who settled this country, but we did settle it too. So it's not as if we're not part of that story, yet we're continually left out of it up until now. And so the unfortunate thing is that like our history being erased is like we just have no idea. So it's great to go back and look, and the material to find all of this stuff, the stories, is really hard to locate, you
Hmm.
know? So it's about looking like through different like newspapers. Like you got to go like deep into Wikipedia. Like there's like you keep on clicking on things and then it's just red. There's nothing left. So it's very challenging, but I think it's important to know this history. It's important to understand that Asian Americans have a deep, deep like roots in this area, this whole country, and all of North America. So it's a very important story to tell.
Yeah. Well, I would love to ask you 80 more questions, but I'm getting told that I have no more left. But Margaret, it was such an honor to speak with you today and just see you over the screen. Thank you so much for everything. Congrats on the movie. And I can't wait to see how everyone reacts to it when it's out in a few weeks.
Thank you. I think everybody's gonna be gagging.
They are going to be gagging. It
They're
is
gonna gag on.
just like your
Thank
two
you.
sisters on Fire Island having
I
to
know, just
turn away.
back to back gagging.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye, Margaret.
Bye.